with the increased economic activity that has actually been picking up pace, corporate India has actually reason to rejoice for this as well. And the corporate India risk index is of 2021 score of around 62 is up from 57 in 2020, representing an optimized risk handling. Now, with the scope for further improvement, is what we could look at. Now, my colleague Anurag Shah caught up with Bhargav Dasgupta, MD and CEO at ICICI Lombard, to discuss what this actually means for the industry. So let's go cross and listen in.
Yeah, this is the third edition of the risk index that we launched. I think the good news is that if you look at the risk index score has gone up by 1 point. That's a good news, but it's driven by two things. One, the overall risk exposure has gone up, but the risk management score has gone up even further. So I think the key message that we are getting is that corporate India is looking at risk much in a much more focused manner and trying to manage risk better. Coming back to your question about insurance, look, at the end of the day, if you look at all the risks that corporates have, everything is not insurable. In the corporate risk index, we talk about business risk, external risk, inflation risk. These are not things that we can control, but there are 3 or 4 of those parameters that we can give protection for. In all of those areas, there are new emerging risks. Natural hazards, climate change, cyber risk, new technologies that are emerging, new business models that are emerging in terms of using some of those technologies to manufacture. So all of these things are changing, and the role for insurance will always be there to cover these risks.
And so, which segment or which sector the role will improve going ahead because the particular sector need to focus more on risk management?
What we've seen, Anurag, is that across sectors there is a range, and there are certain large organizations seem to be doing a better job of risk management, and as it goes down, it as the size becomes smaller, the score is not as high. So clearly, the smaller companies, there is clearly a scope of working with them and advising them on improving their risk index. If you look at within each of those large, medium, and small, there are certain sectors where a lot more work can be done. We see certain sectors like mining, manufacturing, some of the retail side. There is scope for new age, technology companies. There's scope for doing a lot more work. I think the objective that we have at ICICI Lombard of preparing this index is to give a tool to boards and corporates to understand where they stand vis-a-vis their sector and vis-a-vis industries, and we can then help them in terms of whatever they can do to improve their risk score. And our sense is there's enough scope for work there.
Sir, from 1st of April, we have seen that expenses of management, new regulation being implemented. So, how beneficial it is for non-life insurance company, general insurance companies, and particularly for your insurance company also, because you are the biggest player in private space.
So the EOM regulation is a progressive regulation. If you look at regulation across the world, most insurance companies are measured only on solvency. They don't even have an EOM regulation. In India, we had EOM. Within that, we had sublimits for every expense, for every line of business. So it was very, very onerous for insurance companies in India to manage, all of those regulations.
All right, moving on then, Vamakshi, let's talk about